Welcome back, everyone. How y'all doing out there? I hope you're all blessed beyond measure. Tonight I have another random batch of emails to share with you all. But before I get started, if you've had an encounter of your own and would like to share it here on the channel, please don't hesitate to get in contact with me. Just send me an email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Your story needs to be told to inform others about the dangers of what's out there. I thank you in advance. Now, if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and get into these encounters. Everyone grab a drink, lock your doors and windows, hit the lights, and let's get started. I suppose I should start with just introducing myself. My name is Sean, and I've lived in North Carolina my whole life. I'm a country boy. I go hunting, fishing, the whole 9 yards, and I've never believed something like this could ever happen. But it did. I was maybe 6 years old, but I can distinctly remember laying my head on someone's lap that I didn't know. Their hair was drooped over my face, and she asked me if I wanted her to kill my family. I told her no. She asked me 3 times. I don't know why, but I can distinctly remember her dark hair. Then at night, I would sleep in my mom's room because I was scared. But at the foot of the bed was the door, and in the doorway there was always a black dog that was transparent and would stare at you and walk back and forth. I was so scared I wouldn't even go to the bathroom, and it was only 1 door away. I would see a giant white dog standing at the wood line near my house when I would sleep in my room. I'd look out my window and I could see him. I think they wanted me to follow them for some reason. I'm glad I didn't. And then we come to what really shook me up. I was on my way to the store just grabbing a pack of smokes. On my way back, I noticed them. Not their bodies. Their eyes. Like red fire embers from hell. They were at least 7 feet tall. Where I was standing, maybe even taller, 'cause they were standing in a ditch and I was on the road. No cars came during this time, which sucked, because I had a little rinky-dink headlamp that barely worked. But I could see their silhouette, and their color was blacker than black. But those eyes, something snapped in me, and I drew my knife and did a double check behind me just to make sure he didn't have a buddy coming up to get me. The big one squinted his eyes at me, and that's when I knew they were real, 'cause I seen them move. This wasn't someone playing a trick. They were too big, and the eyes were at least a hand width apart. And I was looking up at them the entire time, and I'm 5'9". So I'm going to say a good 7 to 8 foot, but they didn't do anything. They just stood there and stared at me. But at that point I was backpedaling to the house watching them. Some other strange events. We have a peach tree in our yard. It doesn't really do too good. The peaches barely come in, and then they ferment in 1 day. I noticed someone had come and took every single one of them. There's nobody around here that does stuff like that. I've lived here over 37 years, so I'm all ears for suggestions. This crap's getting crazy. I bought guns, armor, swords, helmets, the whole 9. I even have chainmail. This thing shook me to my core, and I suggest to anybody, don't go looking for that crap, 'cause you're not going to like it when you find it. Hello, Reels. I have a kind of interesting story to tell you from Australia. I wouldn't say it's probably worthy of being told on your channel, but I just thought I would send it to you to read for yourself. If you do happen to put it on your channel, which I don't mind either way, please don't use my name, but otherwise, go for it, or not. So I grew up in a regional coastal town in the middle of Western Australia. When I was a kid, my parents had a house pretty much central in the town/small city. The town itself is surrounded by scrubland, coastal beaches, and sheep and wheat farms. Our house was middle suburbia. However, there was a large area of crown land opposite the house, with a big sump for water drainage and bushland. There was an old ruin where we used to play as kids, probably an old settler's cottage, and then just scrub and bush. Families of wild goats, foxes, and kangaroos would sometimes wander through the area. But as the area built up with houses over time, this obviously decreased. My eldest sister slept in the front room facing the road and the sump crown land. She was older than me by about 11 years. But she always had nightmares and would often get me to come sleep with her, until she got sick of my squirming and would kick me out again. Gotta love siblings, right? Anyway, on one occasion I remember I was probably 5 or 6 years old, so she would have been about 16 or 17. I was woken by a sound from a deep sleep. The bed we shared was along the window, and so I lay there with my heart pounding and listening to the deepest rumbling growl I have ever heard. After a little while, my sister moved a fraction beside me, and I asked her if she heard that. She said yes in a whisper as the deep sound continued to rumble through the brick walls and window, so that it felt like it vibrated our bodies. We both debated about looking out the curtains to see what it was, but it sounded like it was leaning up against the wall beside us, and we chickened out, to be honest. After a while, it went away, and we went back to sleep. We told our mom and dad in the morning, and Dad just laughed and said it was probably just a stray dog. But I remember even at that age thinking, no dog can make a brick wall vibrate with its growl, surely. And we don't have big cats or bears here. Anyway, I was talking to my sister about that experience and asked her if she remembered it, and she said yes. Then she proceeded to tell me about another incident which happened to her in that same room when she was alone in her bed. It would have been around the same time, I think, considering her age, somewhere in that same year. But it was summer, because she had the curtains and the window open to get some breeze. She tells me that she woke up one night with a weird feeling and looked up to see a large dog standing up, with its paws resting on the window ledge and staring down at her through the window. Now, I'm not saying this was a Dogman, but it's still freaky as hell if you ask me. No wonder she had nightmares in that room. So maybe these two creatures were just big dogs, but to kids it was terrifying enough. That's the story. Nothing amazing or even Dogman as such, but still both situations felt weird. Keep you and your family safe, Reels, and keep doing what you do. Real Adventures. I've had this draft saved in my email for almost 2 weeks now. Every time I get ready to hit send, I would just close my laptop instead. But maybe today, someone out there somewhere needs to hear this. It was 1996 in a rural part of northern Mississippi, not very far from Holly Springs. I was 22, working a night shift at a factory doing electrical maintenance. I used to stay with my grandpa on his property to save money. He had about 40 acres of wooded land and an old A-frame house that sat at the end of a gravel driveway a good half-mile off the nearest road. He passed away in 2004, but he used to tell me all kinds of stories about things that he'd seen out in the woods. He never gave me very much detail. He would just say that he wouldn't go walking around at night without a light and some sort of rifle. Me being the assuming type, I always thought he was referring to maybe coyotes or possibly trespassers, but I wish That's all he was referring to. Anyway, one night near the end of September, I got off work early. It was a little bit after midnight when I pulled in the driveway. It was one of those nights where the air just felt thick and it was quiet. No breeze, no bugs. It was kind of a dead silence, the one that would make your ears ring if you wasn't used to being out there. I parked the truck, got out, and right away something felt off. The porch light was on, but the front door was wide open. My grandpa was dead asleep by 9 every night, and he never left the doors unlocked, let alone leaving them open. I called his name a couple times and got no answer. I stepped inside and found him standing in the hallway in his pajama pants and an old flannel shirt, holding a shotgun. He looked scared to death, and I had never seen him like that ever before, so it kind of freaked me out. I remember him whispering to me, saying, "It's back. Don't turn on any lights." He motioned for me to follow him to the kitchen window, and that's when I heard a sound that I will never forget as long as I live. It was this wet, low snarling, but it had a rhythm to it, like breathing, but it was too deep and too rough. Almost like the sound was intentionally being made. We both peeked through the curtains, and standing no more than 20 or 25 feet from the house, close to the tree line, was a very large creature. And I say creature because it was not like a man or an animal. There was something in between. It was crouched over, almost squatting down on the ground, its back hunched up, and its shoulders were bulging unnaturally. The moonlight was catching on the edge of its fur. It was dark and had a weird shine to it. It looked like it was oily or possibly wet. We watched it for a few seconds, and things only got worse. I thought just seeing it crouched was bad enough, until it slowly started to stand up. That thing rose up onto 2 legs and towered over everything. I swear it had to be at least 8 feet tall. Its snout, its ears, the long front limbs, it looked like a werewolf. But not the movie kind, it was different. It was too thin in some places and too bulky in others. Its knees were bent backwards like a dog, and it had hands, not paws. I asked my grandpa what in the name of God that thing was. He said it's been coming back every year since 1978. As soon as he said that, I felt my skin turn to ice, and I could barely breathe. I asked him again, "What do you mean? What is that?" He just told me not to move and not to make a sound, and kept watching it out the window. I heard him cock back the hammer on his old shotgun, and that's when I decided to look out again. The thing had started walking toward the house. It was just casually strolling, like it had done this hundreds of times before, almost like it owned the place. It stopped about 10 feet from the front door and stared right directly at the house without moving a muscle. I couldn't see its eyes clearly at first, until it tilted its head to one side and caught the angle of the porch light. Its eyes glowed, not like a reflection or eye shine. They actually glowed like light was coming from them, a yellowish white light burning like coals from a fire. It tilted its head back the other way and let out a growl that could not be emitted by any creature on this planet. I swear on everything. Everything I just told you is exactly how it happened. And that thing out there, it knew that we were inside the house. We waited, but it stayed out there for about 20 minutes. It would walk a few feet one way, look at the house, and then shift the other way, pacing back and forth, like it was debating on whether it was going to rip its way inside the house, or maybe waiting for someone to come out and challenge it. Of course, I don't know exactly what it was doing. I'm just spitballing here. If you or anyone else has any idea what it was doing, please elaborate. Finally, after about 20 minutes, it turned and walked back into the woods. We both stayed up all night that night, staring out the window, waiting for it to come back. It never did. I moved out about a week later. He passed away 8 years after that, and he never spoke about it again. But when I cleaned out the attic after the funeral, I found a box with some notes and some sketches in it he had been documenting every appearance from this monster. He wrote that it always came in late September, stayed for a few days, and then vanished until the next year. He called it the Walker. I've never gone back out to that house. I don't care if it's been torn down, sold, or burned to the ground. That land is tainted, and I'll never step foot near it again. I don't know if you'll use this story, but if you do, just don't mention my real name. Just refer to me as D. Hi, Real Adventures. I'm just an old woman now, and I want to share something that happened to me when I was just a girl, living in rural Ohio. I've never even thought about telling the story publicly before. I've never told this hardly at all, only to a select number of family members. But I know you'll take this seriously because I've heard you talk about your own experiences. So thank you for that. It actually gave me the courage to do this. My encounter happened in 1963 on my parents' property just outside of town, called MacArthur, in Benton County. At the time, it was nothing but forest for miles. We lived in a farmhouse near a patch of pine woods. My dad never let us play in them. He said the trees were too dense and it was too easy to get lost in there. I always figured that was just his way of keeping us close to home and keeping us in his sight. It was one late afternoon in the fall I went out behind the barn to bring in some firewood. I was maybe 10 years old at the time. I remember the wind was picking up and the light was fading fast as I was loading wood into the wagon. I heard a twig snapping. It was something heavy. I thought it might be our neighbor's dog until I looked up and saw it. It was standing at the edge of those pines about 20 yards away from me. I know how memory can sometimes get fuzzy with time, especially when you're a young child, but not this one. I can see it as clear today as I did then when I closed my eyes. This thing was very tall. It wasn't a man, a bear, and not a dog either, though it looked like all three had been put into a blender. It was standing upright and its shoulders were very broad. Seeing the light reflecting out of its eyes is something I'll never be able to forget either. It looked like some type of monster from another universe. It didn't come closer to me, it was just watching me. I remember backing away, dragging that little wagon over the grass, trying not to trip. I don't know why, but it felt like if I ran that it would have definitely chased after me. I told my father what I saw. He got real quiet. He didn't laugh. He didn't call it silly. He said you did the right thing by walking and not running. After that, he never let us go near that tree line. He even built a big fence around that section the following spring. I've kept this to myself for most of my life, but it has definitely stuck with me. I still can't say with certainty what exactly it was, but I can tell you that it was real. I saw it. It was physically there, and I'm grateful for people like you who give folks a place to speak openly and honestly. I always regret not talking to my father more because I think he knew more about this creature than he ever told. Anyways, that's my encounter. Best wishes. Linda. R.A. Thanks for giving people a place to share these kinds of stories. I wanted to send in one on behalf of my grandfather. He's not exactly the emailing type. He barely trusts his own cell phone. He's a smart man. But he told me the story when I was about 19, and I've always remembered it. He grew up outside of Lufkin, Texas in the 1950s, back when it was mostly logging roads and deep woods. His dad worked in timber, and they had a small house way off one of the dirt roads leading toward the Davy Crockett National Forest. He said he was 14 or 15 when it happened one summer night. He and his older brother were out in the yard playing with a lantern because the power had gone out again. They were chasing each other around when they both heard a low growling coming from the trees. He said they both stopped dead in their tracks, and his brother held up the lantern, and about 30 feet away, something stepped out into the moonlight. He said it was a wolf, but it was walking on two legs. He told me its ears, he remembered them twitching like it was listening to them. He said the thing just stood there as tall as an old fence post, and he could see its chest rising and falling like a man after he'd taken a long run. They both dropped the lantern and ran for the house. Their dad came out with a rifle, but by then whatever it was gone. My grandpa said he never saw it again, but he always felt like something was watching from those woods when he walked home alone. Even at his age now, he still doesn't tell that story to just anyone. But I did show him your channel, and he just nodded and said, "That guy would believe me, I bet." You're right. I do believe you. So here it is. I don't know if what he saw was a dogman or werewolf, but I believe him wholeheartedly. He saw something. He has never lied to me, and I can see the fear in his face and in his eyes when he retells the story. I want to thank you for your time and also tell you that my grandpa says that you're a good man. And, sir, I am inclined to agree. Take care. Marcus. Marcus, you and your grandpa are legends, my friend. Thank you for reaching out. Hello, Brother Reels. Now listen, right up front. I'm not a person who jumps to everything's paranormal. I'm 37. I work in construction, and I've spent most of my life hunting and hiking, doing all sorts of outdoor stuff. I have laughed off plenty of people's Bigfoot stories and thought Dogman was just internet creepypasta. Well, that's what I used to think, until an event in my life changed all that for me. I was working on a job site just outside of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. We were doing a culvert replacement job about 10 miles from town, pretty far into the woods. One night we were wrapping up, and I stuck around a little longer to pack up my stuff. It was almost dark, and the other guys had already left. As I was walking back to my truck, I could hear something that sounded like a low, steady breathing coming from behind a stack of cut logs near the trees. Now, this didn't sound like an animal panting, not that kind of breathing. This was slow and deep, like whatever it was had a chest the size of a barrel. I stopped and waited, thinking maybe it was a black bear, but as soon as this thought hit me, it stepped into view. Or should I say it stood into view. This is actually harder than I thought it would be. I don't even like typing this. It slowly stood fully upright, but it looked like a wolf. Its proportions were all messed up. It had longer arms, a weird jointed shape to its legs. One of the weirdest things was the way that it moved. It moved so fluid, so effortlessly, so silent for its size. It moved like it was weightless, like it was floating. We looked at each other directly in the eyes for about 2 seconds, when it whipped around and just glided off into the woods, like it had better things to do. I just left everything behind and got in my truck so fast I forgot to shut the tailgate. Tools, buckets, boxes, everything I had, I don't know what all it was, went flying out of the back of my truck. I don't know what all I lost out of there, and I don't really care. I never went back. I never told anyone that I work with either. No way that I would ever be able to live that down. But I needed to tell someone who would get it. You changed my mind about a lot of this stuff, Reels. Whatever you want to call these things, Dogman, Skinwalker, werewolf, whatever they are out there. They are real. You're doing God's work. Please keep going. TJ. Friends, legends, family. I hope everyone enjoyed tonight's compilation of encounters. As always, I'll be interested in seeing all your thoughts, theories, and opinions in the comment section. Also, please be mindful and considerate of these people's situations and what has happened to them. If for some reason you don't believe that their story is trustworthy, that's totally fine. Just let's not be nasty about it, okay? As most of these people have already been ridiculed enough. With that being said, I want to thank you all for being here, and most importantly for listening. A big thank you goes out to all the submitters who trusted me enough to send me their encounters. Thank you guys so much, and I hope that I narrated them to your liking. Before you go, please be sure to hit the like button and share the video if possible. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, please consider doing that as it helps the channel to grow, and the YouTube algorithm will pick it up and spread it to more people. Awareness is the goal. After all, remember, the more people that know, the safer they can be. As always, my email address along with the channel membership will be linked in the description of this video. A huge special shout out goes to the people that are active members of the channel. You guys know who you are, and that extra bit of support you give, I cannot tell you how much it means and how much it helps the progress of the channel. All of you members, listeners alike, subscribers, you're all absolute legends. I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. Guys, that's gonna do it for tonight's upload. Wherever you are, whatever time it may be, I hope you're staying safe. God bless you and your family. I love you all. Until next time, my friends, watch over your loved ones. Keep your head on a swivel. And as always, good night.